My name is Scarlett Ridgway. I'm 32, the forgotten youngest daughter of a family so wealthy and polished the world mistakes our cruelty for class. While my mother and sister were bred for yachts, charity galas, and magazine covers, I grew up learning how to stay quiet in rooms designed to erase me. I was the one who didn't fit their image, the one they kept just out of frame, useful only when they needed someone to blame. And after a lifetime of pretending, I didn't notice the way they flinched at my presence. I finally let myself admit the truth. I wasn't just the outsider of this family, I was the one they feared would upset the balance. And they had no idea I was holding the one secret that could drown them all. Brunch at the Ridgway estate was quiet in the most aggressive way. You'd think sunlight filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows, gleaming off $1,000 crystalware, would feel warm. It didn't. Ava tapped her spoon against the rim of her mimosa flute. "We finalized the guest list for Yacht Week," she said without looking at me. I tilted my head, waiting. Vivian, my mother, lifted her eyes from her phone just long enough to say, "It's a very tight head count this year, darling." "Am I on it?" I asked. Neither of them answered. Vivian clicked her tongue and went back to texting. Ava smirked into her glass. "Well, it's mostly couples, Scar. You'd be alone. Again." I wasn't surprised, but I also wasn't the girl who swallowed it anymore. I reached for my phone, refreshed the family calendar app. The invite for Martha's Vineyard, July 15th to 22nd, was marked private. No access. I scrolled to the bottom. Attendees: Vivian, Ava, Theo, her husband, various social names. No Scarlett. I locked the screen. Ava leaned closer, voice like glass breaking. "Don't take it personal. You just don't bring the kind of energy we want on that boat." I gave her the kind of smile a snake gives before the strike. Vivian stood. "You could spend that week doing something useful. Maybe travel. Recalibrate. You've been so tense lately." Tense. That's what they called quiet resentment and years of swallowed grief. I stood too. My napkin hit the table with a quiet thud. "You're right," I said. "I think it's time I adjusted a few things." They didn't look back when I walked out. My suite in Manhattan was 10 floors above anyone I had to pretend to like. I kicked off my shoes, walked straight into my study, and locked the door. The screen blinked to life. Sable Stone Financial. My company. Not just any credit management firm. It was the silent handler of several luxury family accounts. The Ridgway family believed they owned it. They didn't. I did. 5 years ago, they signed paperwork transferring temporary rights to me while dealing with a tax audit. They forgot to undo it. I didn't. I pulled up the dashboard. Vivian's Platinum Amex. Ava's Business Visa. Theo's Black Card. Linked to Ridgway Investment Group. All connected. All vulnerable. Mace had warned me once. You hold the button that ends their world. Make sure you're ready to push it. I hovered my cursor over the freeze command. But not yet. First, a little pain. Then the kill shot. I opened our family group chat. My eyes landed on Vivian's last message. "Let's not invite Scarlett. She makes everything feel provincial." I froze. Not from shock, but clarity. There's a saying I used to write in the margins of every journal. Power doesn't scream. It switches off the lights. I clicked the first button, then the second, then all of them. One by one, their financial bloodline turned cold. The yacht? Unfunded. The crew? Unpaid. The image? Cracking. Let's see how well you sail with no credit left to float you. 5:12 a.m. Martha's Vineyard. The dock lights buzzed faintly against the fog. A seagull screamed overhead. Captain Dalton's phone lit up in his hand. Declined. Then again. And again. The third officer glanced over, frowning. Still nothing. 3 cards. 3 declines, Dalton muttered. Fuel payment failed. Port clearance pending. Ava's heels clacked sharply on the deck. She was in silk. Too much perfume. She smiled like she ran the world. I assume we're ready to sail. Dalton stepped forward, voice firm. Ms. Ridgway, there's been a payment issue. Until we receive funds, I'm afraid we can't authorize departure. What the hell are you talking about? She snapped. Vivian approached behind her, already dialing. Theo lit a cigarette. He didn't offer to help. Inside the marina office, the screen blinked in red. Transaction denied. Fraud review flagged. Ava leaned closer to Vivian, whispering, Fix this. We're not losing face over a billing error. Vivian narrowed her eyes, pressed the phone to her ear. Yes, Ridgway Holdings. I need immediate override on our travel expenditures. She paused. Her expression broke for a moment. Just 1 second. Then she lowered the phone. The cards are frozen. Cut to my Manhattan apartment. Espresso machine hissing. Black ceramic mug. Dashboard on screen. Live updates. 3 red alerts. Ridgway Holdings. Travel card. Primary frozen. Ava Ridgway. Luxury visa. Frozen. Vivian Ridgway. Foundation platinum. Frozen. I didn't flinch. I sipped my coffee. There's a rhythm to revenge. Calm before chaos. Silence before implosion. Mace sent a text. Confirmation complete. No leaks. You're surgical. A second ping. An image. Ava on the dock. Eyes wide. Face hard. I smiled. Not because it felt good, because it felt necessary. The first rule of dismantling a legacy? Pull the rug while they're still dancing. Back at the marina, panic bloomed like blood in water. Theo pulled out his phone, tapping furiously. Try mine. Personal account. Declined. Use the company fund, Ava barked. Vivian cut her off. It's all under one umbrella, Ava. Don't you get it? Ava blinked. No one said it, but it was there. The moment realization slithered into the room like smoke. Someone was doing this. Vivian's voice dropped an octave. Find out who's behind this. Ava's hand shook as she opened the family banking portal. Password denied. Again. Theo's hands tightened around his phone. Scarlett, he whispered. What? Ava spun. She had access. Remember? After the tax audit, she handled the restructure. Vivian looked up sharply. That was years ago. She was never removed, Theo said, staring into nothing. She never gave it back. I watched from my screen. The live security feed Mace installed months ago, hidden in the dock's CCTV network, offered everything. Vivian pacing. Ava's glossy facade cracking. Theo panicking under his breath. Scarlett Ridgway, the irrelevant youngest daughter, had just paused their entire existence with a single click. They'd taken the yacht from me. Now I'd taken the ocean from them. Later that day, a ripple turned tidal. Vivian's assistant stormed into the Vineyard Law office. All foundation cards bounced. Pending legal audit. Accounts locked. Reputational alert issued. Julian Cross, family lawyer for 20 years, went pale. Who authorized the freeze? He asked. No one inside the family, she said. It came from Sablestone. Julian froze. His voice dropped. Scarlett. Assistant nodded. She's listed as controlling interest. Via proxy. He cursed low. She's not a problem, Vivian said that night over speakerphone. She's a child. Julian didn't answer. He knew better. Children grow teeth when you keep feeding them bitterness. That night, I poured myself a drink. Nothing fancy. Just cold. Clean. Mace called. You ready for phase 2? He asked. I'm ready to watch the mask slip, I said. One more step, and the IRS can't ignore this, he warned. Let them watch, I replied. Let everyone watch. And for the first time in my life, I wanted the cameras pointed right at me. They don't know I own the storm they're drowning in. .2 headlines hit the East Coast gossip wires by 9:07 a.m. Ridgway yacht scandal. Luxury trip grounded over financial freeze. Anonymous tip to IRS triggers audit of Ridgway Foundation. The second one came with a leak. A 30-page document scanned in grayscale. Dozens of transactions flagged as questionable. Line items like executive spa retreat, Turks and Caicos, $118,000 billed under charity development. I didn't send it. Mace did. There are moves that burn bridges. Then there are moves that light the entire coastline on fire. Vivian stood in Julian Cross's law office. He'd represented our family since I was 13. His desk, always immaculate, was now buried in folders. She dropped the printed leak onto the table like a loaded gun. Tell me this is fake. Julian read silently. Every second he didn't speak was another floor collapsing beneath her. He set the papers down. The accounts are real, and Scarlett's name appears on half the controlling interest filings. Vivian's voice cracked. She was never supposed to have access. We were shielding assets. It was temporary. You gave her legal POA, Julian cut in. You signed it during the audit in 2019. You never revoked it. She was 28 and invisible. She was also smarter than you gave her credit for. Cut scene. Ava in the Vineyard suite, pacing in bare feet. Her phone vibrated nonstop. Texts from sponsors, clients, influencers. Are you okay? Canceling my RSVP. Hope all's well. I can't be tied to anything messy, babe. Theo sat on the edge of the bed, tie loosened, staring at a declined investment email. Their floating villa project just lost $4.6 million in backing. He said nothing, just exhaled through his nose. Say something, Ava hissed. Taustut. You let her in. Don't act surprised. She burned the house down. My office. Dim light, rain streaking across glass. I sat with Mace, who dropped a slim, black folder onto the table. Inside, contracts, asset logs, and one handwritten note from Vivian, her signature unmistakable. You own the yacht. You own the fleet vehicle account. You own 2/3 of the Ridgway Foundation, Mace said, and the trust accounts. He smiled. Effective midnight tonight. Control shifts to your holding company. The paperwork is sealed. Legal. They can scream all they want. I nodded, quiet. He studied me. You okay? I looked out the window. People always say the truth sets you free. That's a lie. Truth is leverage. Silence is freedom. Cut scene. Julian dialed into the emergency call. Vivian. Ava. Me. He didn't introduce anyone. Vivian, he began, you need to know something. He clicked a button. My voice filled the room, recorded clearly. I've kept every receipt, every signature, every amendment. You handed me the knife. Vivian stared at the speaker. I didn't blink. You'll be contacted by IRS investigators, Julian continued. The whistleblower submitted enough evidence to trigger a mandatory review. That means freezing related accounts, including Ava's LLC. What about the yacht? Ava said, almost a whisper. It's under Scarlett's name, through Sable Stone's offshore proxy. Theo's glass slipped from his hand, shattered. Vivian grabbed the edge of the table. You planned this, she said, finally. I survived this, I replied. Julian ended the call. Vivian stood in silence, then threw her phone against the wall. You handed our empire to the help. No, Ava whispered. We handed it to Scarlett. Vivian's hands trembled, then suddenly stilled. She wants a war, she said. No, Ava replied, her voice dry. She already won. Later, on the Vineyard dock, news vans lined the curb. Ava stepped out of a black car. Reporters swarmed. Ms. Ridgway, is it true your accounts are frozen? Who filed the whistleblower report? Is Scarlett Ridgway your sister or your enemy? She kept walking. One might caught her final mutter. She's not my sister. She's our executioner. I stood in my Manhattan balcony, watching city lights flicker below. Scarlett Ridgway, forgotten daughter. Scarlett Ridgway, controlling interest. Scarlett Ridgway, the name behind the silence. If they thought this was personal, they're not ready for the legal storm I'm about to unleash. The yacht sat still. Not anchored. Not drifting. Just still. Like it knew something was coming. Ava paced along the dock, her heels echoing on wet wood. Hair pinned, makeup perfect, dress pressed. Nothing in her screamed panic. But her fingers trembled around her phone. Her voice dropped to a sharp hiss. She's here. Vivian didn't react. She adjusted her sunglasses and stared across the harbor like she couldn't see me at all. I stepped off the car and walked straight toward them. One step, another, each one heavier than the last 5 years. Power doesn't always come from volume. Sometimes it comes from the fact that you don't flinch first. A uniformed officer from the Coast Guard stepped in, holding a clipboard. Ridgway Vessels fuel payment was declined again. Port Authority has grounds to restrict movement until cleared. Vivian's jaw tightened. There must be a mistake. There's no mistake, I said. Ava turned sharply. You don't belong here. I own here. They blinked. I stepped past them, the boat's chrome hull reflecting a broken version of all of us. Cut scene. Inside the yacht's lounge, the crew stood silently, waiting. Captain Dalton looked down at the dashboard. Still no authorization. I handed him my phone. Refresh it. I've rerouted access through Sable Stone's secured vault. He hesitated, then did. Green light. Approved. His voice shook slightly. Orders, ma'am. Keep it here. Nobody boards. Nobody sails. He nodded once. Understood. Outside, the air changed. Vivian moved fast, her voice like velvet soaked in venom. You've made your point. I didn't answer. You're embarrassing yourself, Ava snapped. You really think this is power? It's petty revenge. Power, I said, is making someone beg you to stop and still choosing not to. Theo approached slow, his shirt half-tucked, his face drawn. She's gone too far, he told Ava, then turned to me. And you? What do you even want, Scarlett? I smiled. That was the wrong question. Mace's message pinged. Ready for disclosure? I typed one word. Yes. Cut scene. Across the city, IRS Regional HQ. Agent Nolan opened a confidential envelope hand-delivered to his office. Inside, copies of Vivian's signed POAs, Ridgway Foundation's offshore funnels, Shell Corporation wire trails, and documentation showing intentional concealment of assets. Signed. Witnessed. Dated. Filed with Scarlett Ridgway listed as active grantor and beneficiary. He leaned back, whistled. Holy hell. Back on the dock, a black sedan pulled up. 2 men in dark suits stepped out. Badges flashed. Vivian Ridgway. She stiffened. I'm Agent Ramirez. This is Agent Kwan. We'd like to ask you a few questions about your foundation's fiscal reporting between 2019 and 2024. Ava gasped. Vivian tried to steady herself. I have nothing to say without counsel. Agent Ramirez smiled. Then perhaps your attorney can explain why we have wire logs showing $2.3 million routed through a childcare nonprofit in the Caymans. From your personal account. Silence. Theo took a step back. Ava's eyes widened. You used my name on that transfer. I didn't, Vivian cut in instantly. Their voices rose. Accusations flying. Ava shouting about betrayal. Theo cursing in half-mumbles. And I stood there, still, watching my family cannibalize itself. You think this clears you? Vivian turned to me, her voice brittle. You think they won't come for you next? I held her gaze. They can come, I said. I've already set the table. Julian Cross called Mace directly. You told me she had a plan. You didn't say it involved detonating the entire estate. Mace's voice was calm. You don't win against a Ridgway. You become one. Julian swore under his breath. Cut scene. That night, Ridgway Estate. Rain against the windows like fingers drumming. Vivian sat in her dressing room, lights dimmed. The yacht was grounded, the accounts frozen, the whispers spreading. She poured herself a drink with shaking hands, then picked up her phone and called someone. Just one line. No more games. Make her stop breathing. That was the moment they realized I wasn't their shadow. I was their reckoning. Rain cut across the coastal roads as I drove into the city. Streetlights blurred under wet windshields. The world looked cold, like the truth I was about to serve. My phone buzzed. One message. They're mobilizing. Private eyes. Media. Expect a full assault. Mace. I parked under the yellow glow of a street lamp. I stayed inside the car. I let the rain hit the roof, steady as a heartbeat. Then I stepped out. Ava was first. Her heels slapped the marble floor in the foyer of Ridgway House. She paced like a shark in a waiting cage, phone in hand. Tears or rage. Same difference when you're drowning. They came at noon. Flashing cameras. Reporters. 10 mics shoved into her face. Will you resign from Ridgway Holdings? Who filed the IRS tip? Is Scarlett Ridgway your sister or your enemy? She opened her mouth, closed it, opened again. No words came. Vivian stood behind her. Pearls clutched so tight they threatened to snap. Her mascara ran, black lines down her cheeks. Her suit jacket hung limp. She looked like a crumbling statue under neon cameras. One reporter asked, "Family loyalty gone?" No answer. Her silence said more than any confession. They expected panic. They expected tears. They expected chaos. They didn't expect stillness. I didn't arrive until the crowd had thinned. The night air smelled of damp concrete and broken trust. I walked up to the door. It opened before I knocked. Julian Cross, their longtime lawyer, had blood-red eyes. Papers scattered across his mahogany desk like dead leaves in a storm. "You did what?" he croaked. I folded my coat. What had to be done? He exhaled, exasperated. "You handed over everything. Control. Titles. The yacht. Business accounts." "Titles don't mean power," I said softly. "Control does. Ownership does." He didn't argue. He only looked tired, old, betrayed. Cut scene. Theo blinked at his investor video call. The background was the half-built floating villa, jetting out over dark water. His face drained white when the screen froze mid-promise. Deposit revoked. Wire transfers reversed. Construction crews pulled off. One by one, calls dropped. His phone beeped. Text from a bank. Account suspended pending federal investigation. He hit the table. Hard. Ava tried to steady him. She whispered, "We just need time. We can fix this." He glared across the room. Fix it? With what? Hopes and petitions. In Manhattan, I opened a letter under the apartment light. No seal. No return address. Just a stack of scanned emails. Threads between Ridgway private investigators and a freelance journalist. Subject line: exposure guaranteed, pay per leak. Attachments: recordings, conversations, confessions, copy of Vivian's voice admitting offshore funnel deliveries. I sat back. My smile was slow, calm. I poured a drink. Straight whiskey. Neat. Revenge, I whispered, is a ledger, and I'm balancing every line. Cinematic cut. Bulbs pop in the foyer. Tiffany chandelier sways. The painting over the fireplace tilts. Vivian stumbles in, hands shaking. She doesn't see me at first. I stand half in shadow by the stairs. She backs away. Wide eyes. She tries to speak. Only a murmur. My phone lights the floor. Detecti Budget apps. Court subpoena templates. TRO forms. FOIA requests. She sees. Her knees buckle. Ava rushes in. She clutches a phone, ready to record, to beg for mercy. Theo runs forward. I don't want this, he gasps. We can turn this around. There's money. Investments. You turned it into ashes, I said. But we're family, Ava pleaded. I leaned closer. Family doesn't draw lines in the sand, then complain when the tide takes them under, I said. Distraction. A knock at the front door. My phone blared with unread messages. Sirens in the distance, somewhere off the estate grounds. Vivian collapsed. Ava screamed. Tau fo the. Julian stumbled in, blood on his cuff. Behind him, 2 agents, badges shining blue under chandelier light. Agent Ramirez stepped forward, paper in hand. Ridgway Foundation. You and Ms. Ridgway defined as persons of interest. Unauthorized transfers. Offshore funnel. Domestic charity flagged. Guide fraude. Financial misconduct. Public report pending. Vivian crossed herself. Ava sobbed. Theo swallowed hard, face white as the wall. Silence. Then the crash of plates and money crates falling downstairs as their accountant tried to salvage fiscal records. Cameras flashed. Reporters outside the driveway shouting names. Secondine. Betrayal. Fall from grace. Cinematic slow motion. Vivian's pearls hit the floor. Glass shattering in the hallway. Smoke of perfume mixing with the smell of fear. She looked at me. Her eyes red, swollen. She mouthed one desperate word. Why? I closed the distance. I whispered back. Because someone had to pay for the lie. Ink-red light from forensic flashbulbs paused the night in a perfect freeze frame. Then darkness swallowed it all. I left without a backward glance. Rain had returned. Rhythm on the windshield. Lights from police cars dancing in puddles. I remember when power meant quiet doors and whispered deals. Not anymore. Now it would mean visibility, exposure, truth. Julian called days later. He sounded broken. You destroyed the entire estate with documents. I answered, you didn't destroy it. You just forgot who owned the titles. He paused, then said quietly, you win. I put down the phone, and for the first time, I felt the weight of silence settle. They want a war. They got one. By the time I saw the red dot moving across my window, it was already too late. Rain hammered against the rooftop windows. Lights from the city below fractured across the glass. I stood by the balcony, watching the skyline flicker. Cold, silent, ready. I heard a faint click behind me, the kind that splits time into before and after. I turned, a red that hovered on my shoulder. Steady, gentle, deadly. I froze. The room exhaled. A single frame, the laser beam on the wall behind me, the dim glow catching dust in the air. Then a gunshot ripped through the night. Glass exploded. The world shattered into shards of light and pain. I dropped. The impact hit my ribs. Pain flared sharp white. I tasted iron. I coughed. Cut scene. Sirens in the distance. Red and blue strobes cutting through rain and darkness. Footsteps above. Mace burst through the door. Coat soaked. Eyes wild. He dragged me behind the couch as another gunshot echoed. Bullets splintered wood. Move, he hissed. Head for the stairwell. We slid down the wall, debris raining around us. The chandelier overhead swayed. Cracked. A sliver of crystal dropped to the floor. Sparkled red in the light. Door schlemmed. Heavy boots. Rainwater splashed inside. I gasped. They came for me. He didn't answer. He just ran. Outside, the building smelled like ozone and fear. Puddles mirrored the flashing police lights. Mace had flagged the cameras. They were recording everything. Audio too. On the rooftop edge, I steadied myself, pain strange and quiet beneath adrenaline. The city spread below like a map of everything I used to fear, and now I owned every line. Inside a black sedan, sirens fading, Mace checked his phone. Messages flashing. Shooting suspect on the run. 2 possible fingerprints, Ridgway relation. FBI surveillance déployée. I closed my eyes. Breathe in rain, breathe out hate. Truth doesn't set you free, I whispered. It exposes you. Flash cut. News vans. Headlights blinking. Reporters shouting names. Cameras zooming through broken windows. Banner headline. Scarlett Ridgway survives attempted murder. Family legacy in ruins. The screen faded to a floor plan, marking the shooter's path, right where Ava had stood when the first gun went off. Twist sharp as a knife. Not Vivian. Not some external hitman. Ava. I knew then, the person who banished me from the yacht. The one who sharpened the knife of betrayal. She tried to finish the job herself. But I outplayed her. I expected shadows. I prepared for vultures. I set the trap when I pulled the financial lever. Cut scene. Courtroom. Daylight harsh through tall windows. The air smelled of mildew and dread. Ava sat beside her attorney. Pale. Groomed. Terrified. Witnesses flew in. Emails. Bank statements. Text logs. A scrawl of messages from anonymous investor. Untraceable. Until traced to Ava's burner phone. The judge cleared his throat. Quiet. Then the gavel fell. Guilty on charges of attempted murder, financial fraud, wire transfer laundering, obstruction of justice. Ava's eyes locked on mine as she was led away. Her lips moved, but no one heard. Maybe even she couldn't remember her words through fear. Back on the rooftop. Rain had stopped. Street lamps glowed orange on wet concrete. The city exhaled. I stood alone. No vengeance. No celebration. Just cold clarity. I reached into my pocket. A small flash drive. Evidence of every illegal transfer. Every hidden account. Every lie they tried to build on. I pressed send to federal records. No satisfaction. No anger. Only peace. The wreckage behind me wasn't just their empire, it was their illusions. I closed my eyes. I remembered a phrase. The strongest hearts carry the quietest burdens. That night the burden lifted. In the silence, I heard nothing but the pulse of possibility, and I whispered to the dark. All I ever wanted was a seat at the table. Now I own the room.